Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, it's not just Labour that's picking a new leader at the moment. The ballot for the next leader of UKIP closed just as we came on air. And the successor to Nigel Farage is due to be announced at the party conference tomorrow. And just like Labour, the party's having a struggle to put on a united front. Ellie's been to Wales, where the party scored a major win in elections earlier this year, to find out more.
3, 2, 1...
Who do you think you are kidding, Mr Smith, if you think UKIP are on the run?
This is what taking the fight to Labour looks like. UKIP campaigners outside the constituency office of the Labour leadership contender, Owen Smith.
Brexit means Brexit.
The party sees an opportunity in Labour heartland, like this part of South Wales, where the vote to leave the EU was above the national average. As with most of the Welsh valleys, there's been a Labour MP here in Pontypridd for nearly 100 years. And yet, there's evidence that UKIP is making inroads. Just up the road in Merthyr Tydfil, the party came second in the last general election. It also increased its vote share in this year's Welsh Assembly elections. But the challenge here will be convincing voters that UKIP still has a role following that Brexit vote.
Perhaps. I think it might be the end of them. And they seem a bit disjointed in Wales, don't they?
Would you vote UKIP?
No.
Why?
A bit too radical.
Asking whether you'd ever vote UKIP.
No.
Do you think UKIP could start winning here in Wales?
Yes. Well, yes, I'd like to think they could, yeah.
And there's another problem round the corner too. The internal divisions within UKIP have been well publicised. On the one side, you have those loyal to Nigel Farage. On the other, a camp of people who felt sidelined by his leadership, the likes of Douglas Carswell, the party's only MP. I'm told the two men haven't spoken since before the EU referendum. But if you think that's bad, welcome to the Welsh Assembly.
Yes, it is complicated.
This is Nathan Gill. He says that he's the UKIP leader in Wales, that he's a UKIP MEP for Wales, but that he sits as an independent on the Welsh Assembly.
The reason for that is because I just felt it was impossible to work within the group of some of the Assembly members here. I didn't want to be associated with them, and they were basically working against the party and against the leadership, and I felt it important to distance myself from them.
He's talking in particular about Neil Hamilton.
Yeah, well, I hear from the BBC that he's no longer a member of the UKIP group in the Assembly. Hasn't had the courtesy to write to me to tell me that. No, his fundamental problem was he hasn't been able to get over the fact that he didn't have the confidence of his colleagues and who wouldn't elect him as leader. It's sad, but there it is. We'll have to cope. I think we'll survive.
Doesn't reflect very well on the party though, does it?
No, it doesn't reflect very well on him.
He doesn't exactly have a cuddly relationship with Nigel Farage either, but he does have friends on the party's National Executive Committee. But allies of the leadership frontrunner Diane James, yes, him, want changes.
These people are not fit to run a village fete.
So whatever happens with the leadership on Friday, is there going to be a bloodbath in UKIP?
Well, there has to be. I think some of it might be where people will just choose themselves to leave the party or to remove themselves from very public positions. But I think ultimately, whoever the new leader is, you're going to need a team of people around you that you can trust and who are not going to spend the next 2-3 years backstabbing you and trying to undermine you.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering what you think.
The long-term success of UKIP will depend on decisions made in the coming weeks and months, on policy, on personalities. The new leader will have a lot of work to do.
Sounds like it if the bloodbath comes true. Joining me now is Steve Stanbury, formerly party director of UKIP. Welcome to the programme. What do you make of what's going on in the party, in Wales particularly?
Well, Wales is a mess. Wales is very disorganised and there's lots of infighting, but I think that really is just the tip of the iceberg and actually shows us a much wider, broader problem within UKIP in terms of competence, in terms of people, in terms of not having good candidates coming forward for the leadership. That's been a nightmare. But actually, Joe, I think the bigger problem is actually not about individuals and actually isn't about the factions. I think the bigger problem actually is in terms of strategy and what UKIP does in the future. And the big question is, does UKIP actually have a future? Is UKIP relevant?
Do you not think it is relevant to the future?
I think really that its best days are behind it, actually. I think that UKIP has really set out fundamentally to achieve what it was meant to do. UKIP's mission was to get a referendum and then to contribute to the winning of that referendum. UKIP has done that and done that spectacularly well. But I actually think going forwards now, it's actually the Conservative Party that is better placed to actually now deliver on Brexit. And that's why, Joe, I've decided, and I hope many of my colleagues will, that I'm actually leaving UKIP and actually rejoining the Conservative Party.
Right, so that's it. It's over for you. You were a long-standing member of UKIP. You feel they've achieved what they set out to do, and you've left. You've defected.
I have indeed. I've gone back to the Conservative Party for a number of reasons, because UKIP has set out what it intended to do. UKIP's principal objective was to secure a referendum. Let's not forget, in January, before David Cameron, January 2013, before David Cameron gave that speech, his position, the position of the Conservative Party, was against a referendum, to not let the people have a say. The referendum was offered because of the pressure UKIP put on the Conservative Party. UKIP played a big and positive role in actually winning the referendum, and now what we all need to do is actually deliver on Brexit. So what I would say to many of my colleagues and friends in UKIP is come home, come back to the Conservative Party, because that's where and how we can actually deliver on Brexit. That's the priority now.
It's not very loyal of you, bearing in mind you've been part of this party which has achieved, in your own words, actually having a referendum on the EU, our relationship with the EU, and achieved what you wanted, which was Brexit. And now you're going to run off and join the Conservatives again.
Yeah, I don't really think politics and parties should be looked at like brands or like football teams. I think politics is about ideas, and it's about change, and it's about the sort of country we want to have. So UKIP's principles and policies in terms of giving the British people a say, of becoming a self-governing country again, we've achieved that. And now the best way to deliver on that
is to go to a party that Theresa May was a Remainer. So you're going into a party under a Prime Minister and leader who voted to remain.
Okay. Theresa May, I think, was always regarded as a very reluctant and sceptical Remainer. But I think look at her record, look at what she has said, look at what she's doing now already. I think her appointments in the cabinet, leading role for most of the Brexiteers, I think that's really very good. I think Boris Johnson is an excellent choice for Foreign Secretary, and I think there's going to be a lot of change and a lot of positive direction. Also, I would say the way in which other ways, subtle but important ways in which the Conservative Party is changing, a new education policy is a great thing.
So it reflects
scepticism on our grotesquely wasteful foreign aid budget.
All right.
All of these rediscovering core values, I believe, will
I don't think they're getting rid of that budget just at the moment. I'm only discussing, but I think they are sticking to that spending from GDP of 0.7%. Have you told Nigel Farage?
I had a very brief conversation with him just before I came on air, actually.
Oh, right. So we are literally the second people to know. What did he say?
Disappointed, but I think a lot of people...
Did he try and make you stay?
No. I think a lot of people are going to, and I hope they do, follow in my footsteps. I think UKIP, as I said, played a really important role in terms of our national story, our national politics, and we've got to this wonderful place now where we once again can be a self-governing country. It's a great opportunity. Now, but the Conservative Party can be the only party now that actually delivers on Brexit, and that's the priority.
This is the success of Theresa May then and the Conservative Party. They're not coming to the Labour Party, are they?
Oh, I think a lot of the people who voted on Brexit to leave Europe are actually traditional Labour voters. So there is a task for the Labour Party to bring them back into the Labour fold. We were the party of the Remain party.
But out of touch with a lot of your voters when you look at the northern towns and constituencies that voted overwhelmingly to leave.
Well, Joe, I know more than most. I had the British National Party challenging me in 2010, and we had 12 elected BNP councillors elected in 2006. So I know more than most the importance of staying in touch with your voters, reflecting the issues of concern to them, which, you know, for me is immigration. I think that was wrongly exploited in the Brexit campaign, and I deeply regret that. But I think Labour has that challenge of getting in touch, talking to their voters and actually reflecting that in what they say in Parliament.
Well, but does Owen Smith promise of a second referendum actually going to help in terms of bringing back those marginalised Labour voters who feel the party does not understand them?
Well, I'm not sure I entirely go along with Owen on that second referendum.
But you are supporting him.
I am supporting him on the broader front. But I do think it's very important that we tackle the issue of immigration, which I think was the reason most people voted to leave Europe. I don't think it was the other reasons. And I think it's really important that we engage with people to make sure that we build a really strongly diverse country that is at peace with itself.
But do you think it's a mistake of Owen Smith then to pursue this second referendum?
Well, let's wait and see. It's quite interesting. We've had the Brexit vote. You know, every day that you wake up and you listen to the news, there is further delay in seeing what that means in practice. I have to say that the 3 people charged with looking at this, all of them Brexiteers, are spending their times rowing with each other on the Tory front bench. Goodness knows what we be. We heard today from the Germans that we're unlikely to be able to start engaging until after they've had.
But it doesn't mean it won't happen, though, of course.
Depends what happens and how it happens.
All right,
the detail matters.
Just finally to you, Steve, do you feel you've let people down in UKIP? I mean, UKIP wasn't just about leaving the EU, was it?
Always, and look at the name of the party. UKIP's principal purpose, its reason for existence, was to free Britain from the shackles of the European Union.
So you don't think it'll survive?
And it's absolutely... not in its current form. I mean, I want the Conservative Party, at the moment we've got a very, very small majority, I want the Conservative Party to be successful. We need, in order to deliver on Brexit and then take advantage of all the opportunities that flow from Brexit, we will need a bigger Conservative majority. That means people need to rejoin the Conservative Party and vote Conservative, and I'm afraid there won't be very much space for UKIP in that.
Steve Stanbury, thank you.
I've been getting away with it all.